Mic check 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and we need to discuss what the pricing of video games is going to look like in the near future. And before we start to have this conversation, I do want to put the disclaimer out there that this video is not about where you stand politically. It's not about who you want for president. This literally has to do with the financial implications that the tariffs could have on video game collecting and video game collectors. Um, Arguing about who should or shouldn't be president or this or that is not my goal here, because the election is over, Trump is president, and he's who we got. And so now at this stage of the game, he is imposing tariffs. And the big concern that a lot of people are having at this stage of the game is what it's going to look like when it comes to the prices of goods that come from overseas. And from the way it's looking like these tariffs are going to have major impacts on the prices of goods. And even if they don't have a direct impact on video games, they're going to impact a lot of other things that will ultimately impact your ability, my ability to effectively collect games in the future. And I think this is something that definitely warrants a conversation. I know a lot of, retro collecting channels or video game collecting channels may stay away from this because this could probably be a hot button topic. And I'm expecting it to get real spicy in the comments. But I really just want to look at this from a financial perspective and kind of hypothesize for a moment what all of these tariffs could mean. Because we've already seen a massive spike in the price of retro video games. We saw it happen 5 years ago now. We saw it happen 5 years ago where the prices of retro video games shot through the roof, right? And those highs haven't necessarily come back down to previous levels. Yes, they may have taken a 10, 15, even 20% drop, but we are still at all-time highs for retro video game prices when you look back over the course of the last 10, 15 years. Now, when it comes to some of these tariffs that are being imposed, obviously these are going to have a bigger impact on the cost of new goods, fresh goods, meaning they'll probably have a bigger impact on newer games, physical games, really, because I don't really know how much of a impact tariffs will have on digital downloads. If someone knows about that and they've done the research, then you can let me know down in the comments. But for the purposes of this conversation, I'm strictly just thinking about the cost of physical goods. What kind of impact are we going to see on the cost of physical video games moving forward? And is the concern of price increases enough to make you want to go out and get the games that you want now before they run out? Now, what I've seen from CNBC, they put out a digital article talking about doom spending. And there's a lot of people that are out there right now, despite the economy not being the best, or the sentiment around the economy not being the best. You do have a lot of people who are out there engaging in doom spending. They're buying up a lot of things that they think could potentially be a lot more expensive in the near future. And I'm interested to know what the video game collecting community, what you guys think about this idea of buying and purchasing items before they get really, really expensive. Now, the most recent example that I have when it comes to video games of a product being overpriced that isn't retro, but that's a new product, is when it comes to the PlayStation 5. A lot of you know I was lucky enough to win or get in line and actually buy the 30th anniversary PlayStation 5. Now, the thing is, I didn't get the 30th anniversary PlayStation 5 Pro. I wound up getting the 30th anniversary PlayStation 5 Slim. Even though it was, a great console, I'm glad that I got it. It was the digital version, and because I am a physical collector, I did want to have a disc drive. So right after buying it, I went and started looking for an external, like a disk drive that I could just add on to it. And at the time that I was looking, no GameStops had any disk drives, no Targets, no Walmarts. There were none available. And so these disk drives, which normally cost like $79.99, they were being sold on the secondary market on eBay, Mercari, everything in between for 160, 170. I even saw some of them going for $200. And they were going for $200 because there was a delay in shipment. They just weren't being shipped out. I'm not sure if that's changed because I haven't been in the market for a disk drive recently, but I do know that it was pretty expensive back then. Now, when it comes to the cost of these more modern physical games, if there is an impact financially on the price of these games, a lot of these physical games are already pretty expensive. They're already coming in at $60, $70, $80, in some cases $120. And if the cost to get these physical games over to us here in the United States from wherever they're coming from, if there's an increase in those prices, that is obviously going to trickle down to us. And now that $70 price tag is now going to be bumped up to something like $90 for a new game. And at that point, you'd have to ask yourself, especially if you're a video game collector, which is worth more? Now, a lot of times when people look at retro games, you might consider a game that's $90 to be, man, you know what, that's too much. That's overpriced. I'm not paying that much. But that could be what the cost of a new game would be. And if you compare it to games that fall in the $90 price range for retro games, well, now you're talking about games like Otogi. You're talking about the Super Mario Party games. You're talking about Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes. You're talking about, and these are games that I'm pointing out to you that kind of fall in the $70 to $90 price range. And the other factor that you have to think about when it comes to these new games is the obvious issue of them not coming complete, them having bugs, them needing patches and things like that. So as collectors look at what they're collecting physically, the two questions I have is, one, what are these tariffs going to do to the prices of new games for anyone just wanting to buy and play the games, as well as collectors? That's part one. And question number two, if the prices of new games get too high, is it going to change collectors' perspectives on the prices for retro games? And will it ultimately increase the price of retro games if people start to look back to retro games as another means of getting some gameplay or getting some gaming in? And I think it's definitely interesting. These are some of the thoughts that I've had as more and more news is coming out about these tariffs. I try not to follow too much of the politics. I try not to get into the weeds of it too much. I try to just kind of stay in the know about the things that, I guess I need to know that are going to impact me like immediately. But these are things that are clearly happening. They're being talked about more and more in the news. And I'm just really interested to know what you guys think is going to happen in terms of new games that are being released as well as retro games, and how these tariffs are going to impact the cost of these games. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'm interested to know. I don't have the answers on this. Like I said, we can hypothesize together about what could happen, but I'm interested to know your thoughts, and I'm interested to know, are you going to start doom spending? Are you going to start buying a bunch of games that you think might go up in price because of this? Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what you're planning on doing down in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.